talked about doing the cover art for your books and the reasons that you do that. Have you ever done that backwards and need to derive it or create a painting from the book? What does it always work one way? Does the story come first and then the painting, or does the painting come first and then the story? How does that work?
Most of the time when I'm creating strictly for myself, it is a synergistic. I see the entire thing as one concept.
Okay.
And then I splinter out the visuals and I splinter out the writing to express different parts of the concept in the way that suits best. So if I'm writing a scene in a book and the book's well moving, I can see the picture. I can feel the emotion. I can sense the concepts that are driving it in many, many different layers. This is getting complicated because we like to think of things in linear ways. And what I'm coming to understand is creativity is not linear.
Oh, yeah.
And in my books, I'm not writing a linear plot. I'm writing a plot that has multiple levels and multiple angles of play. In particular, in the large series I've written, which is now up to 9 books. You can read it as a 20-year-old and see one thing. You can read it at 25 and see a whole other set of things. You can read it again at 30 and it's a different story. You can read it again at 40 and go, oh my gosh, how did I miss all this? Because depending what level it's accessed at, it changes. And the characters operate at more than one level, but how wide is your vision? So that's the challenge. Most stories, as stories that we're familiar, you have a beginning and an end. This story does not. It has a beginning and an end in the lineal story sense.
Right.
But the dimensionality of how that lineal tale occurs has tremendous amplitude. And where are you accessing the viewpoint? So as the characters interact, you are accessing multiple viewpoints. You're seeing many different paradigms at play, all in synergy in one story. Which paradigm are you sitting in? And depending which character's viewpoint, the musical chairs are going to shift. So that whole attitude of, history written by the victor, but what was the real story?
Right.
I don't like history was written by the victor, and I don't think wars ever solved anything. We're not going to be done with them for a while, evidently. And I'm not saying that in the creation and destruction cycle, destruction never happens. Okay, I'm not about to freeze the world. But we are stuck in violence is the only solution. And I want to step out of that from many angles. So while the fantasy story traditionally says you have a big war and everything is cool, you have done a circular motion. You've gone from this to that, back to this, now the cycle keeps repeating. I'm doing something like this, where the circle does not define. It's the dimensionality. You re-access the same point, but you're at a different point and a different angle of view, and you're looking at the same events, but it is not lineal, it is not one-dimensional, it is not. So you were saying, how did I want to digress? I think that we grow through our myths and storytelling and picture making and visioning anything that becomes a creation in the concrete, real sense of the word. It says more than its physical creation does. It's accessing the octaves of what it is inspiring. I mean, a beautiful building can inspire you and uplift you. It can open your heart. Whatever you're using as a creative medium, even if it's just a meeting between people to come to a consensus decision, there are multiple angles of view at play. And I think in these times we cannot operate linearly. We're too complex for that. We need that ability to go multidimensional and look at things from totally different angles and to say, this angle does not exclude that angle, and this is not better than that. This may be what we need now, but that may be what we need tomorrow. So you get a flow. And so in my art, in my picture making, in my novels, in my stories, I'm trying to create a new myth, a new paradigm, which is not new at all. Nature does it naturally.
Right.
But to open the idea that linear thinking is not where we need to go. We need to evolve to something beyond the cycle keeps repeating.
over and over and over again.
And the cycle doesn't repeat in the same way over and over again. But there's many, many angles of view, and depending where you're standing, what's good today could be evil tomorrow. It changes. So I wanted to make a story that had the flexibility to encompass that synergy of what idea could hit this story at a later date in my own life or anyone's life, or in the future or the past even. This story is a flexible ruler. It gives you many ways to measure. But what's the one that's going to work for you now? And it may not be the one you use 5 minutes from now.
Right.
To eliminate the idea of the rule book is fixed. The rule book has got to flow. The spirit of the law has got to work with the measure of the law, or we're sunk. Because somebody's going to use the measure of the law to whip somebody else.
Yes.
So, but the spirit of the law is a living, organic interpretation of where's the viewpoint, where's the King Solomon's ruling that's going to make this clear. And without the flexibility to change stance and see from many angles, you can't pick the one that's going to empower. So I'm striving to do that, and it's really, really hard sometimes. Not only to break my own boundaries or acquire a point of view that I wouldn't have affinity for, or say, if a person is doing this act, where's the moral high ground? It's not mine, but there must be something. And to try to look for that in situations and see unexpectedly what I'm not trained to see. Can a story do that? It's pretty dang ambitious, and I don't always succeed at it, and certainly I mystify some readers. But it's what I'm about. Breaking the box and making a new box, but not saying that's the only box, and breaking that box. So my stories do that, or they strive to do that. And as far as the picture making goes, that's a very physical interpretation, but I'm the living artist. You got one shot to see it how I saw it at the time I painted it.
Right.
When I'm gone, anybody can interpret it any which way, or you can as you read it, but you got one shot as to seeing it how I saw it, one shot to understand the language spoken on this world, how I saw it pronounced, one shot to share the experience, crude as it is, for me to make a physical representation. I just feel it would be leaving stones unturned if I didn't stretch in every direction and put as much of it down as I can physically do.
Well, I think